You make 6 figures, Renee, and this is the best you can do? $50? My boss held my gift up between 2 fingers like it was something he'd found stuck to the bottom of his shoe. Maybe that's why your family still lives like they're poor. The room went quiet for half a second. Then people laughed, high and shaky, the way people do when they're not sure if they're supposed to. My mother's smile dropped right off her face. My little sister stared down at her plate. And I, the woman who made sure every paycheck in that company went out on time, sat there with my hands under the table so nobody could see them shaking. He had done it right there, at the company holiday party, under a chandelier that probably cost more than my car. He'd taken a $50 grocery gift card and turned it into a public X-ray of my entire life. Before I tell you how that one moment led to a $5 million corporate explosion, and how the man who mocked my poor family lost his golden throne, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And if anyone has ever humiliated you over money they had no right to judge, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps YouTube recommend our revenge stories and family drama stories to other people who need to hear them. My name is Renee Carter. When this happened, I was 32 years old, living in Houston, Texas, and working as a senior payroll analyst at a logistics tech company called Ellison Freight Solutions. On paper, it sounded impressive. In reality, it meant this. I knew exactly how much everybody made. And somehow, I was still broke. I grew up counting receipts at my mama's kitchen table. Gloria Carter, my mother, used to clean houses during the day and work the drive-thru at night when my dad walked out and never came back. My baby sister, Danielle, was 8 years younger than me, all long eyelashes and dimples. By the time I was 16, I was scanning groceries after school and sliding cash into Mama's drawer. By 20, I could look at a bill and tell you which one could wait and which one had "lights cut off" written all over it. When I got hired at Ellison Freight at 27, it felt like all those late-night calculations had finally bought us some oxygen. Salary, benefits, a badge that opened glass doors instead of a username that opened a fry station. Our CEO, Marcus Ellison, loved to tell the story of how he started the company with a truck, a laptop, and nothing but grit. First-generation millionaire, former warehouse worker. He shook my hand on my first day and said, "We need more people like you in leadership, Renee, people who know the struggle." I believed him. He put me in payroll and compensation, the beating heart of the company. I made sure drivers got their overtime, analysts got their bonuses, and the executives' 7-figure deposits landed exactly when they wanted them. At church, people heard corporate and thought I had made it. At home, it meant I could pay Mama's rent and Danielle's car note. Mama loved to remind folks. "If it wasn't for my Renee, we'd be out on that street," she'd say, patting my arm. "My baby work in HR, she keep us fed." It sounded like praise. It also sounded like a warning. When Mama had a minor stroke 11 months before that party, I did what I always do. Opened my laptop and calculated. Insurance covered most of the hospital bill, but the medications, follow-up appointments, and physical therapy piled up fast. I picked up freelance spreadsheet work. I cut back on everything that wasn't bills or medicine. One night, when I was staring at her prescriptions and my checking account at the same time, I did something I had never done in 5 years at Ellison Freight. I asked for help. Our company loved to brag about its employee hardship fund. Marcus mentioned it at every town hall. "We take care of our own," he'd say. "Nobody suffers alone on my watch." So I submitted the form. I attached the hospital paperwork and a note. "My mother had a stroke. I am her primary financial support. Short-term assistance for prescriptions and home care would help me stay focused at work during her recovery." HR called me in. Marcus was already sitting there. He gave me that concerned, fatherly look he used in videos. "Renee," he said, "why didn't you tell me your mom was sick? You know we're family here." I smiled politely. "That's what the fund is for, right?" He folded his hands, leaned forward like a pastor about to deliver bad news wrapped in scripture. "Here's the thing," he said. "We set that fund aside for folks who really have nowhere else to go, drivers whose houses flood, single moms on the warehouse floor. Your management, you make good money, you're one of the strong ones. I know you'll figure it out. Your mama having a stroke apparently didn't qualify as really needing it. I walked out, cheeks burning, stomach twisting, but I told myself it was fine. I had survived on less. I'd survive again. 2 months later, an email slid into my inbox. Subject: Holiday Appreciation Party and Secret Santa. We're excited to celebrate another amazing year at Ellison Freight Solutions. Join us for dinner, dancing, and a fun Secret Santa gift exchange. Please keep gifts under $50. No luxury items. We want this to be about thoughtfulness, not money. I stared at the screen and laughed, but there was no humor in it. $50 might not mean anything to Marcus, who probably spent that on coffee beans. To me, it was half a prescription refill. I thought about skipping the party. Then I saw the second paragraph. Family is welcome this year. Bring your spouse, partner, or a loved one so we can thank the people behind our people. I pictured Mama's face when I invited her. She'd been cooped up in the house for months, watching the same court shows. A fancy hotel, free food, seeing her daughter in her corporate environment. She'd love it. So I said yes. I bought a simple black dress on sale and a new pair of flats that didn't pinch my toes. For Marcus's gift, I stared at store shelves for an hour, running mental math. I hadn't forgotten the hardship fund. I hadn't forgotten the way he'd dismissed my request with a smile. But the company email had said, thoughtful, not expensive, and I wasn't going to let him make me into the problem. He always talked about his wife's love for cooking, and I knew from payroll data which grocery store loyalty card he had attached to his reimbursement account, so I bought a $50 gift card to that store. Clean, within the rules, more than some folks would bring. On the night of the party, the hotel ballroom looked like money. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, a DJ playing a little too loud, waiters weaving between tables with trays of champagne flutes. The company had gone all out. I walked in with Mama on my arm. She wore her best blue church dress and low heels, moving carefully with her cane. Danielle walked beside us in a sparkly jumpsuit, hair laid, excited for the open bar. "Lord, look at this," Mama whispered, eyes wide. "This where you work?" "Not exactly," I said, laughing. "I sit at a desk and fight with spreadsheets, remember?" "But they did all this because of your work," she insisted. "Because of y'all work." Part of me wanted to believe her. Marcus took the stage early, microphone in hand, doing that aw shucks thing he did so well. He told the story of the first truck, the risks he took, how we were family and nobody gets left behind. I clapped when everyone else did, even though I knew there were at least 5 people who had been quietly laid off that month with barely a severance check. Dinner came next: chicken, salmon, little roasted potatoes, real silverware. Mama kept leaning over to whisper, "Smile, baby," every time she saw someone looking our way. Then the MC announced the Secret Santa. He explained that Marcus had insisted on a fun twist this year. Instead of just opening gifts at the table, each person would come to the front, say who their gift was for, and Marcus would riff a little to keep it light. People laughed nervously. My stomach tightened. I told myself I was being dramatic. The gift exchange rolled on. People opened candles, wine, joke mugs. Marcus roasted everyone. When the junior developer got a novelty tie, Marcus said, "Use this when you go beg the bank for a mortgage." When a warehouse supervisor gave his boss a bottle of whiskey, Marcus yelled, "Careful, we don't need you on a forklift after this." It was meaner than I liked, but folks still laughed, especially after their third drink. Then my name was called. "Renee Carter," the MC said. "Senior payroll analyst, the woman who keeps our checks from bouncing." I stood up, smoothed my dress, and walked to the front. "Renee has a gift for—" The MC checked his list, grinned. "Our very own Marcus Ellison." Of course. My palms were damp as I handed him the neatly wrapped envelope. He shook it like there might be jewelry inside. Somebody whistled. He tore the paper, pulled out the card, and his smile froze for a split second, just long enough for me to see it. Then he turned to the mic, holding the gift card up between 2 fingers. "A grocery gift card," he said slowly. How practical. A few chuckles. He could have stopped there. He didn't. You know, he continued, Renee is one of our six-figure ladies. He winked at the crowd. She sees all our numbers. So you'd think when the boss's name came up, maybe she'd raid that payroll budget for something a little more festive. Laughter. A little louder this time. I felt my ears heat. He went in for the kill. You make six figures, Renee, and this is the best you can do? $50? His eyes flicked toward my table. No wonder your family still lives like they're poor. The laughter turned ragged. I saw Mama's hand fly to her chest. Her smile cracked. She looked like someone had dropped a glass in front of her. Danielle forced out a laugh, eyes darting between us, clearly trying to read the room. I wanted the floor to open and swallow me whole. I forced a smile I didn't feel and reached for the mic. Company email said $50 limit, I said lightly. Just trying to follow the rules you set, Marcus. He slapped my shoulder in that too hard way some men think is friendly and leaned into the mic. You hear that? HR humor, he said. Next year we'll raise the limit so Renee can show us what a real gift looks like. He turned away before I could respond, already calling the next name. The moment was over for him. It would not be over for me. Back at the table, Mama barely touched her dessert. That man just called us poor in front of his whole company, she whispered, after the way you work for him. He was joking, Danielle murmured, though her eyes looked troubled. You know how he is, Ma. That wasn't no joke, Mama snapped. That was disrespect. I stared at my plate, the cheesecake blurring. When the DJ turned the music up and people started dancing, I escaped to the restroom just to breathe. I stood in a stall with the door locked, hands braced against the cold metal, and let a few tears fall. You are not crying over a gift card, I told myself. You are crying because he made your whole life a punchline. I wiped my eyes, fixed my lipstick, and stepped out to wash my hands. That was when I heard them. Two women from customer support, standing at the sinks, talking. I mean, Danielle said her sister's always been like that, one of them said. Real controlling with money. Right? The other replied. She makes bank but acts like she's broke. Heard she still got her mom living in that little house on the south side instead of moving her somewhere nice. Guess that's why Marcus had to say something. The first one laughed. Some people need a reminder that being cheap isn't cute. My stomach turned. They noticed me in the mirror and went quiet, the way people do when they realize the she they're talking about is 3 feet away. Hey, Renee, one mumbled. Great party, huh? I dried my hands, met their eyes, and smiled without showing teeth. Y'all have a good night, I said. Inside, something twisted. Danielle had been talking. On the drive home, Mama was all sharp edges. That man embarrassed you, she said. Called me poor, called my house poor, and you just let him. Mama, he's my boss, I said. If I clap back at the CEO in front of everyone, I'm unemployed. So? She shot back. You think you supposed to let folks talk to you any kind of way just because they sign your check? Danielle sat in the back seat, quiet. Mama, maybe just drop it, she said softly. It's done. Easy for you to say, Mama snapped. You not the one he humiliated. You just told your little coworkers your sister's cheap so they could laugh with you. Danielle's voice wobbled. I didn't. Yes, you did, I cut in, tired. I heard them. Danielle said her sister's always been controlling with money. Sound familiar? Silence. Danielle didn't deny it. Something in my chest crumpled a little more. At home, the three of us exploded like we'd been waiting for this moment for years. Mama accused me of letting them play in her face. Danielle accused me of acting like I was the only one who ever sacrificed. I accused both of them of enjoying my paycheck but never respecting my boundaries. Underneath all the yelling was one ugly truth. I had built my whole adult life around being indispensable, and the people I'd been trying to save were tired of standing on my shoulders just as much as I was tired of carrying them. I went to bed that night with a pounding headache and a knot of humiliation in my stomach that felt like it would never untie. The next week at work, the party was all anyone talked about. People reenacted Marcus's $50 joke in the break room. Someone started calling me Coupon Queen. I smiled tightly and pretended not to care. Inside, every repetition was sandpaper. On Tuesday afternoon, an email from Marcus popped up in my inbox. "Need you to finalize year-end payroll and bonuses by Friday," it said. "Important we get this right. Come by my office if you have questions." He added a smiley face like we were best friends. The spreadsheet attachment was enormous. I'd built most of it myself over the years. Base salaries, performance multipliers, bonus percentages. I opened it, ready to lose myself in numbers. When life spins out, math is the one place where I know the rules. As I scrolled, a faint gray tab at the bottom caught my eye. Executive Internal. I frowned. I didn't remember leaving anything hidden. Curiosity prickled. I right-clicked and unhid the sheet. A new page opened. At the top, in bold, Executive Leadership Bonus Pool, Confidential, Do Not Distribute. My eyes moved down the columns. Marcus Ellison, Annual Bonus, $1,800,000, Chief Operating Officer, $900,000, Chief Technology Officer, $650,000, Ellison Strategic Consulting, LLC, $600,000, Total Executive Pool, $5,000. My mouth went dry. So much for barely breaking even. So much for no big bonuses this year. But it was the next line that made my brain short-circuit. Under Retention Bonuses, Special Approvals, Danielle Carter, Customer Support Specialist, $75,000, $75,000. My baby sister, who made $42,000 a year, was getting a retention bonus almost twice her salary. I scrolled further. Regular employees, year-end appreciation gift, $250 cash card, plus company swag box. No performance bonuses for non-managers. He had denied hardship funds to people whose kids were in the hospital, refused cost of living raises to drivers, cut overtime. Then turned around and wrote himself and his executive buddies a $5 million Christmas, and slipped my sister a secret envelope for staying loyal. I leaned back in my chair, heart hammering. Marcus's words from the party replayed. "You make 6 figures and this is the best you can do?" I thought about the form I'd submitted for Mama's medical bills, his "You're one of the strong ones, Renee" speech. My hands started to tremble. I picked up my phone and texted my best friend at work, Priya, who sat 2 floors down in accounts payable. "Need to talk. Private," I wrote. She replied in 10 seconds. "Conference room C in 5. Priya was small, sharp, and allergic to nonsense. We'd bonded over bad coffee and shared eye rolls during meetings. When I showed her the executive sheet, she whistled low. "We knew they were eating good," she said, "but $5 million?" I pointed to Danielle's name. "That's my sister," I said. "They gave her $75,000. She's a customer support rep, Priya. They don't give drivers that. They don't give managers that." Priya frowned. "Has she mentioned anything?" "No." "Then the question is why?" Priya said slowly. "Why is he buying her loyalty?" I told her about the lunch invitations Danielle had been bragging about, the one-on-one chats with Marcus, how he'd checked in on our family, asked questions about Mama's health, my finances. Priya leaned back. "Renee," she said carefully, "you know he didn't deny your hardship request because he values your strength. He denied it because he knew you wouldn't leave. Too many obligations." I already knew that. Hearing someone else say it out loud still felt like a punch. She went on. "He saw you as a captive asset, strong enough to carry the load, afraid enough to stay. And now he's grooming your sister to be the cool, grateful one who says yes to whatever he needs." Heat flared behind my eyes. "So what do I do?" I whispered. "Print this and staple it to his forehead?" Priya stared at the screen for a long moment. "You could leak it," she said finally. "But if you're going to light a match this big, you better do it with intention. Not just because you're hurt, because you want something to change." That night, after Mama went to bed and Danielle disappeared into her room to FaceTime friends, I sat at the kitchen table with the spreadsheet open on my laptop. I changed nothing. I just printed copies of the executive sheet and the regular staff sheet. Then I printed my own hardship fund email and Marcus's reply. I stacked them together, stapled them neatly, and stared at the little pile of paper that held the truth of what my boss really valued. In the morning, I called Danielle into my room before work. She came in yawning, hair in a pineapple, clearly still half asleep. "What's up?" she asked, dropping onto the edge of my bed. I handed her the stapled packet. "Read the part with your name," I said. When she hit the line that said, "Retention bonus, $75,000, she blinked. "Is this some kind of joke?" "No." She looked up, eyes wide. "Marcus approved that for you," I said. "He did not approve hardship funds for Mama's prescriptions. He did not approve a raise I was supposed to get last year. But he wrote this for you." She swallowed. "I didn't know," she said. "He just keeps saying I'm a fresh energy and that he wants to invest in the next generation. I thought he was just being, nice." "Nice?" I repeated. "Danielle, he used our family situation to keep me underpaid and overworked, and he used you to gather information about me." She shook her head. "No, he just asked how you were doing, if you were stressed." "What exactly did you tell him?" I asked. She hesitated. "I mentioned you paying Mom's bills," she admitted. "I said you were always worried about money, that you never did anything fun for yourself, that you'd never leave that job even if you were mad because you had too many responsibilities." "Why would you say that?" I asked quietly. Her eyes filled with tears. "Because I was tired of being little Danielle, the one Renee has to take care of," she burst out. "At work, people see you as this responsible queen. I'm just the baby sister in customer support. Marcus made me feel like I mattered, like I wasn't just your shadow." "So you sold my cage story for attention," I said. She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I didn't know he'd use it against you," she whispered. "I thought he really cared." "He cares about control," I said. "And image. And his own bank account." We sat in silence. Finally, Danielle whispered, "What are you going to do?" It was the first time she'd asked what I wanted, not what I could do for them. I thought about it all day, through emails, through meetings, through people's jokes about bonus season. By the time I got home, a plan had crystallized. Revenge, if you are going to do it, should not be a tantrum. It should be a spreadsheet. I didn't want just to hurt Marcus. I wanted to break the little kingdom he had built on lies. The company was holding a year-end results meeting the week after Christmas, partially in person, partially live-streamed for remote workers. Marcus would present numbers, cast the year as challenging but victorious, and talk about shared sacrifice. Bonuses were scheduled to hit accounts the day after that meeting. If I wanted people to see what was really happening, that was the window. I spent the next 3 nights building a different kind of presentation. First, I created a clean PDF. One page listing executive bonuses, another listing the $250 employee appreciation gift. I highlighted Marcus's name and his brother's shell company. I left Danielle's in there, small but readable. Then I pulled up our shareholder contact list. Marcus owned the majority, but there were early investors and board members who had put real money in before he got flashy. One of them, Mrs. Thompson, an older black woman, had pulled me aside once and said, "If you ever feel like something isn't right in this place, you tell me." I composed 3 different messages, one anonymous email to employee distribution lists. "Since Ellison Freight likes to call us family, I thought you should see how your family shares holiday gifts. These numbers come directly from our internal bonus files. Compare for yourself." Attached, the PDF. Then an email to select board members and Mrs. Thompson, sent from a burner account using a coffee shop Wi-Fi. As someone who cares about this company's reputation and long-term health, you should be aware of potential misuse of funds and unethical treatment of staff. Please review the attached documents, along with this denial of Employee Hardship Fund assistance to a senior employee with a critically ill parent. More documentation available if needed. Attached, the PDF and the hardship emails. And finally, a packet to a local business journalist who ran a blog and podcast called Paycheck Truth. She specialized in stories about companies bragging about culture while quietly exploiting workers. Subject line: Family Company, $5 million secret, receipts included. Priya helped me scrub any obvious digital fingerprints. We used the office copy room after hours when cameras were off to print a hard copy for Mrs. Thompson's P.O. box. One more thing remained. I handed Danielle a flash drive. On the morning of the results meeting, you're going to share that anonymous email with your group chats, I said. Customer support chat, social chat, whoever. I'll send it from the burner, but you amplify it. You work closer to the gossip arteries than I do. She stared at the drive like it was a live wire. If I do this, there's no going back, she whispered. There was no going back the minute he used our business to keep me on a leash, I said. You don't owe him loyalty he bought with dirty money. She took the drive. The night before the meeting, I slept badly. Every sound made me think cops were at the door, or IT had traced the anonymous emails. When my alarm went off, my heart was pounding so hard I almost threw up. You don't have to do this, Priya texted me. I do, I replied. Not just for me. For everyone who thinks they're crazy when a company calls itself a family while bleeding them dry. At 8:15 a.m., our inboxes chimed with the invite for the live stream. Employees started filing into the cafeteria for breakfast tacos and coffee. The company logo pulsed on big screens. At 8:30, I hit send on the anonymous employee email. At 8:32, Priya texted, "It's live." At 8:34, Danielle forwarded it into 3 group chats with a single line. Is this real? By 8:40, the cafeteria sounded different, quieter, sharper. People were staring at their phones instead of making small talk. I saw brows furrow, mouths drop, coworkers spin around to show their neighbors the numbers on their screens. Is this a joke? 5 million? You see this shell company? My heart hammered as I watched the shock spread like food dye in water. Upstairs, in the boardroom, the second wave hit. Mrs. Thompson opened a thick envelope her assistant had placed on her chair. She read fast, lips moving. Lord have mercy, she murmured. Another board member opened the burner email on his iPad, eyes narrowing. At 9 o'clock, Marcus strode onto the cafeteria stage in a navy suit, smile bright, oblivious. Good morning, Ellison family, he boomed. We made it through another year. He launched into his speech, slides with bar graphs and upward arrows behind him. Revenue up, costs down. We had to make some tough decisions, he said. We froze hiring, cut back on perks, tightened our belts. But because we all sacrificed together, we stayed profitable. Murmurs rose from the crowd, different from the usual applause. People were not looking at the stage. They were looking at their phones. Marcus noticed. His smile flickered. I know folks are eager to hear about bonuses, he joked. We'll get to that. But first, let's talk about the big picture. He clicked to the next slide. Before he could say a word, a voice called from the back of the room. Marcus. He squinted into the lights. Mrs. Thompson stood near the door, holding up a sheaf of papers. Even from the stage, I could see the bold header line, Executive Leadership Bonus Pool, Confidential. I think we should talk about this big picture instead, she said, voice carrying. Care to explain why you told staff we were barely breaking even while authorizing $5 million in executive bonuses? It was like someone had cut the sound. Even the cappuccino machine behind the coffee bar seemed to go quiet. Marcus laughed, a short, forced bark. I'm not sure what you're looking at, Mrs. Thompson, he said. There's always context around those numbers. We can take that offline. We will, she replied. In a board meeting. Today. But since you love talking about family, maybe the family deserves some context too. She handed the packet to the person nearest her, and like church fans in July, the papers passed from hand to hand. Marcus's face reddened. Okay, folks, let's stay focused, he said quickly. There's a lot of misinformation that can spread at this time of year. Is it misinformation that you gave yourself nearly $2 million and told drivers we couldn't afford overtime? Someone shouted. Is it misinformation that you shut down our hardship requests? Another called. I stood near the side wall, heart thudding in my throat. Marcus scanned the room, eyes wild, searching for someone to pin this on. His gaze landed on Danielle near the front, her phone screen still glowing with the anonymous email. For a split second, I saw the calculation on his face. He needed a scapegoat, preferably one he considered expendable. She's in customer support, he liked to say during budget meetings. Easy to replace. He tapped the mic. Look, obviously something confidential has been shared in a way that violates company policy, he said, voice tight. We'll investigate internally. I've always said mixing family and business can get messy. Maybe hiring siblings in different departments wasn't the best idea. Heads turned toward Danielle. My hands clenched. I hadn't risked everything to watch my sister get crucified because he decided to push her in front of the bus first. I stepped forward before I could talk myself out of it. Marcus! I called. He looked relieved, like he expected me to save him. Renee, he said, forcing a smile. Maybe you can help explain how these numbers are being misunderstood. Folks, Renee handles payroll and comp. She knows how complex these calculations are. I walked closer, up until I was standing near the front row, facing him with a microphone of my own that someone pushed into my hand. My fingers shook, but my voice was steady. There's no misunderstanding, I said. Those numbers are accurate. I pulled them myself. The room went dead quiet again. Marcus blinked. Renee, let's talk privately, he said. You know there's context. The context, I said, is that you personally told me we couldn't spare a few $1,000s from the hardship fund when my mother had a stroke. The context is that you blocked cost of living raises for warehouse workers and drivers, and then approved $5 million for yourself and your friends. A murmur swept through the crowd. He stepped back, jaw tight. You're violating confidentiality right now, he said. I am honoring the truth, I replied. Confidentiality is supposed to protect people, not cover up exploitation. His eyes narrowed. So you admit you leaked internal documents? I took a breath. I admit that I am the one who knows exactly how much this company values its so-called family, I said, and I refuse to keep lying by omission. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no, but everyone understood. You're angry about a joke at a party, he scoffed. This is about a $50 gift, isn't it? You're letting your feelings. This is about you humiliating me and my family over $50 while hiding $5 million, I cut in. You said my family still lives like they're poor, when the truth is, we live like we're responsible for covering your shortfalls. A few people clapped. Others just stared, stunned. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Elaine, his wife, standing near the back. She must have slipped in quietly. She was reading something on her tablet, face pale. She locked eyes with me for a second, then she turned and walked out, phone already at her ear. Mrs. Thompson stepped forward again. There's more in those documents, she said. Shell companies receiving consulting bonuses, relatives on the payroll. It's not just messy. It might be illegal. So I suggest we adjourn this meeting and let the board handle what we're supposed to handle. The COO, who had been sitting in the front row looking like he wanted to disappear, spoke up. I think that's wise, he said quickly. Folks, we'll send an update later today. For now, please return to your workstations. Nobody clapped this time. People trickled out in clusters, whispering fiercely. Some stopped to squeeze my arm. Others gave me wide-eyed looks like I'd just pulled a fire alarm in a crowded building. In a way, I had. That afternoon, my anonymous leak appeared on a business blog, accompanied by a long article breaking down the numbers in plain language. By evening, a local news station had picked it up. The headline crawled along the bottom of the screen in the break room. Logistics CEO under fire for multi-million bonuses after cutting worker pay. The next day, the board announced that Marcus was taking a leave of absence, pending an independent audit. It sounded dignified. Everyone knew he'd been pushed. Human resources and legal called me into a conference room with glass walls and closed blinds. A woman from legal smiled too much. "Renee, we want to thank you for bringing these concerns forward," she said. "However, the way this came to light has put the company in a difficult position." "You mean the truth?" I asked. She ignored that. "Given the circumstances, we're prepared to offer you a separation package," she said. 1 year of salary, accelerated vesting of your stock options, positive reference language. We believe this will allow everyone to move forward. It was hush money. It was also freedom money. Priya had warned me this might happen. "They'll never trust you again," she had said. "Even if the board secretly respects you, the new leadership won't want to keep the woman who proved she's willing to blow the whistle. Take whatever money you can and run to someplace that deserves you." I looked at the offer. I thought about Mama's prescriptions, Danielle's car, the house with the leaky roof that my father had abandoned and my mother had nearly broken her back to keep. "I want an additional clause," I said. "No gag order about my experience. I won't share proprietary formulas, but I won't sign anything that says I can't speak generally about being retaliated against for raising ethical concerns." Legal's smile thinned. "That's unusual," she said. "So is a $5 million bonus pool in a year when you told us to be grateful for a hoodie and a gift card?" I replied. She excused herself to make a call. When she came back, the clause was in there, narrowly worded, but enough. I signed. Walking out of that building with my cardboard box felt surreal. Coworkers watched from cubicle corners. Some gave me thumbs ups. One driver I'd fought for at a grievance hearing pressed a note into my hand. "Thank you for not being scared," it said. "Even if they pretend otherwise, we know what you did." At home that night, the three of us sat at the kitchen table again, just like when I was 16. Except this time, the numbers were different. I laid out my separation agreement, my new savings account balance after the stock payout, the projected costs of Mama's care. "For the first time in my adult life," I said slowly, "we have a chance not just to survive the month, but to plan for a year." Mama studied the paper, then looked up at me with eyes that had seen too much disappointment to trust easily. "I thought that man was your blessing," she said softly, "raising you up from nothing. I didn't see he was standing on your back the whole time." Neither had I. "I let him make me feel grateful for crumbs because I was scared of losing the crumbs," I said. "But turns out I was the one making the bread." Danielle reached across the table, tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for talking about you at work like you were some stingy villain. I wanted them to like me. I didn't realize I was handing them knives to stab you with." "I won't pretend that didn't hurt," I said. "But you helped fix it. You didn't have to. That matters." She nodded. "I'm donating that retention bonus to an employee hardship fund," she said. "Not the fake company one. I'm starting a mutual aid account for the warehouse folks. Priya said she'd help." Mama blinked. "You're just going to give that money away?" "It's dirty money, Ma," Danielle said. "I don't want it sitting in my account like a thank you note from the devil." I laughed, a short, surprised sound. "That's the most grown sentence I've ever heard you say," I told her. In the months that followed, Ellison Freight changed. The audit confirmed that Marcus had funneled money through his brother's shell company. The board pushed him out officially. Elaine and Mrs. Thompson led a quiet revolution on the leadership side. They instituted a real hardship fund administered by a committee of employees. Bonuses became transparent and performance-based across all levels. They tried to offer me my job back under new leadership. I politely declined. Instead, I took a position at a different logistics firm in another part of the city. Higher pay, less family, more contracts. On my first day there, I sat in my small new office, looked at my name on the door, and realized something wild. For the first time since I was 16, my job was not the only thing keeping my family afloat. Danielle kept her promise. She stayed at Ellison Freight long enough to help rebuild from within, then moved on to a customer success role at a software company. She started sending Mama money without me having to ask. Mama began to see a therapist at the community clinic. She still slipped into old habits sometimes, saying things like, "After all I did for you." But she caught herself more often. One Sunday, as we sat around the living room with takeout containers, she looked at me over her glasses. "You know, when that man shamed you over that grocery card," she said, "I was mad at him, but I was mad at you too." "I know," I said quietly. "I thought, how can my daughter work for someone who thinks we're trash?" she continued. But I realized I'd been doing a softer version of the same thing, taking your help and then turning around and making you feel small with it. My throat tightened. "I'm sorry, baby," she said. "For all the times I made you feel like the only way you could be loved was by sacrificing yourself." I blinked hard so my tears wouldn't fall. "I'm sorry too," I managed, "for tying my worth to how much I could do for everybody else. I thought if I stopped carrying everything, the whole world would fall apart." "It didn't," Danielle said, licking sauce off her fingers. "It just shook a little." We laughed. Months later, I watched a news segment about corporate whistleblowers. They flashed a blurred screenshot of the Ellison freight bonus story and mentioned an anonymous payroll specialist who'd exposed the scheme. I sat on my couch, eating leftover Chinese food, and smiled. Marcus had tried to humiliate me over $50. He'd used my family's circumstances as a punchline while hoarding millions. In the end, that $50 insult cost him his crown, his golden reputation, and a good chunk of his wealth. Me? I walked away with my integrity, a healthier bank account, and something I hadn't had since I was a teenager, the knowledge that if I ever again felt that familiar clamp of humiliation around my throat, I had the power to walk away and open my own door. If anyone has ever made you feel small over money, or used your love for your family to keep you stuck in a place that was killing you, I want you to know this: you are not crazy for wanting more. You are not disloyal for refusing to be exploited. You are not a guest in your own life. Tell me your story in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps YouTube recommend our revenge stories and family drama stories to other people who need that reminder that they're allowed to pick up their own pen and rewrite how the story ends.